In today's video, I'll talk about the top 5 best budget Prebuilt PCs that you can buy right now. My last video was about the top 5 overall Prebuilt gaming PCs that you can buy right now. So this is different because I'm going to talk about gaming PCs that are from $600 all the way up to $1,200. So if you have a budget between $600 and $1,200, then this is the right video for you. Before starting, I want to say that you have the links, all of these PCs down below in the description with the upgrades I recommend doing for some of these PCs, and I'll get into that in a second. With the first Prebuilt PC, we have one that's $734. This list is not going to be from the cheapest to the most expensive one. It's going to be from the worst deal, in my opinion, of the list all the way up to the best deal. This one I think is the worst deal, but it's still a good deal depending on what you want to do with a gaming PC. This one is an upgradable gaming desktop. It has the Ryzen 5 5600G, which has integrated graphics. You also get 16 gigs of RAM, 128 gigabytes of SSD to put Windows in there, and then you get 1 terabyte of hard drive. The most important thing here is that it's upgradable because you get a power supply that's 520 watts. This will allow you to make future upgrades for the GPU, which is what I recommend doing if you're going to buy this PC. It's not terrible for gaming now at 1080p low settings in competitive games or even GTA 5, but if you're expecting to play the newest AAA titles, then don't expect this PC to run them well, because in order for this PC to be a medium-end gaming desktop, you have to put a graphics card in there, and I recommend for this type of specifications maybe like the RTX 3050 or the RX 6600 from AMD. So consider those two GPUs in the future, because if you buy this PC, you're aiming to upgrade it down the line. With the second PC, we have the iBuyPower Pro gaming PC Slate MR 215A. This one actually, it's a pretty good deal, but I put it here because of the price, $1,179 with 99 cents. It's not the cheapest one, but if you want a 1080p or even a 1440p that's going to run at around 60 frames per second, then I think this one for the price is not terrible. You get the Ryzen 5 5600G once again, which is a great CPU, and then for the GPU you get the RX 6600 XT. I think it's one of the best GPUs out there for the price. It has 8 gigs of VRAM and it's going to be capable of running 1080p, 144 frames per second on average in competitive games, and 60 FPS on average for literally every single game, even the high demanding ones. So overall I think this PC is not terrible for the price, but because I'm talking about budget PCs, there are better deals just because of the price. Then you get 16 gigs of RAM and 480 gigabytes of SSD. Now you can get away with 500 gigabytes of SSD depending on the games that you want to install. So if you want to install games like Red Dead Redemption 2, Call of Duty Warzone, then I recommend you upgrading the SSD to at least 1 terabyte. But if you're going to play games such as CSGO and Valorant, then 480 gigabytes of SSD is going to be enough. With the next one, we have the ABS Master Gaming PC at $1,200. Once again, it's at my number 3 because of the price, and here you get the i5 11400F, which is going to be actually really similar to the Ryzen 5 5600G in terms of performance. Then for the GPU you get the RTX 3060, which is a little bit worse than the RX 6600 XT in terms of performance, but I put it here because you get the LSS, you also get ray tracing, and it's going to be better for streaming because of the MBank codec. Just for that reason, I think this PC is going to be better than the last one. You also get that 16 gigs of RAM and 512 gigs of SSD. So overall, a really similar PC to the last one, but here you get the RTX 3060 and you actually get better airflow, and the reviews overall for this PC are better. With the next PC, we have the Victus 15L by HP, and I think this one is by far the best one for the price on the list, and that's why it's at my number 2. For $700, you can get a gaming PC with the Ryzen 5 5600G, the GTX 1660 Super, 8 gigs of RAM and 256 gigs of SSD. Now here, if you have a little bit more of money, I recommend you upgrading some stuff as soon as possible, and those components are the RAM and the storage. If you can go with at least 500 gigs of SSD and 16 gigs of RAM, then this PC overall will become way better, because with 16 gigs of RAM, which is basically the standard for gaming, it's going to be better for multitasking and those high demanding RAM video games. So keep that in mind, 16 gigs of RAM are going to make a huge difference, and then 500 gigabytes of SSD at least, because like I said before, it really depends on the games that you're going to install, but if you're planning on installing a lot of games, consider at least 500 gigabytes. Now if you make these two upgrades for $870, you're getting a gaming PC that has 500 gigs of SSD, 16 gigs of RAM, a GTX 1660 Super, the Ryzen 5 5600G. Overall, for the price that you're paying, you're getting a great gaming desktop, and it's going to be capable of running 1080p 60 frames per second without any problem in any game. Of course, depending on the settings, but most of the games at high settings, 60 FPS on average is going to be really possible. And for those competitive competitive games, you're going to be able to average above 144. So for 144Hz monitor on the esports titles, this is actually going to be really good for it as well. The only downside for this PC is the upgradability. This is an OEM system. If you don't know what that means, I have a whole video talking about PC build versus Prebuilt PC, and I talk about OEM systems as well. You can go ahead and watch that video by clicking in the top right of the screen, but basically it's not that upgradable down the line. So if you're searching for something that's upgradable for the future, then I don't think you should be buying this PC. But if you're searching for something that's performance right now, you don't care about the future, you just want to play right now, that is going to last at least 3 years, then I think this one is actually going to be the right choice for you. And with the best PC, and this one is always the #1 for the budget PCs of the month, and this is because of the price to performance. This one is the CyberPower Extreme VR Gaming Desktop. You get the i5 11400F, the RTX 2060, and 500 gigs of SSD. All of these for $964. So for the price that you're paying, you're actually getting a great gaming PC. You're also getting an entry level of ray tracing, so keep that in mind if you want to play games with ray tracing. This PC is going to be the entry point, and considering today's market, you are not spending that much for the components that you're getting. You also get that from mesh panel, so the airflow is going to be really decent, but there are 2 upgrades that I recommend you doing. The first one being the RAM. You don't want 8 gigs of RAM, and this one is on single channel, so you only get 1 stick. This is the worst part of this gaming PC, so I recommend you upgrading the RAM as soon as possible. It's not going to be that expensive, so don't worry, you can do this as well down the line, so you don't have to worry about it right now. But this is an upgrade that I think it's really necessary for you. And then the second upgrade that you can make it down the line is not necessary for now because it's the i5 11400F at the end. It's the CPU cooler. I would go with the Hyper 212 Black Edition or RGB CPU cooler. That one is going to be totally fine for the i5 11400F, and you will be keeping your PC way better cooled. But overall for this PC, for 1080p gaming, is going to be completely a beast, and it's actually, in my opinion, the best choice in terms price to performance that you can get right now in the market. Remember that you will have all the links down below in the description, and you will have the upgrades as well, such as the RAM, storage, and CPU cooler. This was my whole video. If you found it helpful, leave a like and subscribe, but most importantly, hit the bell button so you get notified when I upload this type of content, which I do from 3 to 5 times a week. So thank you guys for watching, thank you for the support, and I will see you on the next one.